Well, Ben, while I'm pulling that up, did you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yes, yes, definitely. Well, thank you, and I apologize, everybody. With all the Zoom meetings and webinars that I've been doing over the last, well, especially over the last 6 months, it's hard to believe that something could still go wrong. I apologize. Well, what we can do is I can give you the introductory slide, and we'll just skip right past that once that pops open. I've been with Nexonia and now what we call as a kind of the umbrella company of Emburse for about 8 years. It's been a long journey and expense, and it's hard to believe, but the company I started with was Certify, which was then acquired and blended with Nexonia, and it's been a really fun journey over the last probably 5 years now, and it's been exciting, and it's been interesting to see the benefits of the different solutions that we brought together and the strong technologies that each player comes in. And Nexonia is a good example of that because of the Intacct relationship, and I think that API now is probably about 8 years old, or started and has evolved and continued to stay a kind of an industry leader. And that's always been something that, when I first started with Certify, we were always jealous of that because it was such a game changer, and it was so nice for those Intacct clients to use that expense module and getting those dimensions in and the real-time sync, which is really exciting. You should have the presentation. Let's see if it came over.
I did not receive it yet. I
Okay.
checked in with Marcel. He has not received it either.
All right, I'll send it. Let me just resend it to Marcel and see. So anyway, like I was saying, so I've been with the company for about 8 years, and I've always been in the partnership side and working closely with sales and our internal sales, and then also our partners globally. It's been really interesting to see, obviously with Sage and Intacct coming together. Actually, Sage was a global client of Certify, so it's kind of neat to see those two relationships come together. The other nice thing about the organization now in Burst, because now we include Chrome River, we include Certify, and we include Nexonia, and a couple other brands globally. And the nice thing about it is we're taking advantage of the technologies that we all have and the good ones that make sense to deploy to the other brands. So for example, OCR technology that's coming to Nexonia is going to be an industry leader. We've had our own proprietary OCR technology, which is character recognition. So is it going to read your handwriting? Probably not going to read your handwriting, especially not mine. Maybe my wife, who's a school teacher, she may be able to, it may be able to read her writing, but it is going to learn. It's full AI, so it's going to learn as you go, and it'll actually pick up on what categories you're putting expenses to, and it's pretty neat how it's going to evolve and change, the simplicity of getting those receipts in. Excellent. Look at this slideshow. I love how it just pops right up. Well, excellent. Let's go through. We can go to the next slide if you don't mind. And I'll try to speed this up to be, I know we have a hard stop, so I definitely want to make sure that we leave that there. So a little bit about Emburse now. Now, when I say Emburse, it does involve Nexonia. It doesn't matter, and you'll see at the end, a lot of us are using the Emburse emails, but our Nexonia email still works, our Certify emails, so it's all, so you'll see Nexonia by Emburse is kind of the new brand. So the organization is bringing together, we have about 4.5 million users. We're in 123 countries now. And with the 14,000 customers, and we have some competitors that love to talk about users, and that's a little bit tricky, and you can kind of exploit that a little bit. But what we like to say is our customer base, our accounts, and I think that's a real good symbol and a good way to measure the size of the organization. It really doesn't matter what size organization you are. We have a lot of clients that are single employee companies. Then we have clients, up to the Exxon Mobils, some large organizations, and Bosch and global. So we can handle global clients, we can handle small clients, and the prices to match. And that's important. We want to make sure that, we don't want to overwhelm somebody and say, just because you've got 5 employees, maybe an expense management solution is not a good fit. And that's just not the case, because obviously any time and energy that's saved doing expenses, flowing, getting that information, flowing back and forth with Intacct, that's going to save money no matter what size organization you have. So we want to focus on that. Next slide. So I grabbed this, and I apologize, you may have to zoom in a little bit on this, but I always like to bring this up because when we talk about, I think unfortunately with APIs now and talking about integration, especially integration, it's such a easily overused expression, and we like to actually give the nuts and bolts of what that actually means. And it can be a scheduled sync, it can be a live sync, but we're going to get those dimensions back and forth and that information back from Intacct and updating for you. And this kind of gives you an idea of that information that's coming across, whether it's our timesheets or reimbursable, non-reimbursable expenses, all that information is going to flow. The other nice thing that comes up is what we do beyond that with our integrations with the credit cards. So we're going to be getting those credit card feeds into the system and automatically matching those up with expenses, which is a really convenient way for reconciling those cards. And obviously you can pull reports for your corporate credit cards. Obviously, you may have different programs for different folks. Maybe the leadership has one corporate card and the other cards are for another group. So you can do it by statement, and it really makes obviously reconciling those statements month after month really nice. Next slide, please. So when I look at kind of our world right now within Inverse and with Nexonia being such a critical software for our Intacct clients, is obviously you've got your expense management, you've got your accounts payable, whether it's bill.com, some of the AP modules that we're building, and actually you'll see more of that coming online in Q1 and Q2 next year. Those are all coming together, and we're bringing in the receipts, and obviously bringing in the OCR technology and bringing in any credit card integrations into that. Now, above and beyond that, like I mentioned, bill.com is another obviously integration that we see a lot of our Intacct clients doing kind of a 3-way integration with Nexonia. It's a good example of how we work and make the communication between systems seamless, easy, and it's not one of those things that's just brand new. I mean, we've been doing it for, like I said, over 8 years now, and it's pretty exciting. Now, the other thing that we bring to the table, and this is something that's really exciting, and the real differentiator, as you know, we've got a lot of clients coming over from one of our competitors that doesn't have a great reputation for customer support. And in fact, I don't even think you can find a phone number on their website if you did want to call them for a question. I think they put their sales line on there, that's it. With Nexonia, you have live 24-hour support, end user support, and not just for admins, and that's really exciting. And it's not outsourced. It's our 2 call centers that we have. We have one on the West Coast, one on the East Coast. Obviously now in our current climate, they're actually, we can call it a couple hundred call centers because all of our customer success staff are at home right now. But you get access to those. Same with training. We have implementation coaches. We have that's going to do all the lifting, heavy lifting of the implementation for you right out of the gate, which is pretty exciting. And then obviously account management for the long term. Next slide, please. So a couple things I wanted to do today is introduce another thing that we're bringing, not only the OCR technology that's exciting, but we are bringing into a new program for clients, and it's really kind of changing how expense management's been looked at over the years, because a lot of times everybody's thinking after the fact. It's after you spend the money is when you get that spend. And I know I did a lot of work in the travel industry over the last probably 4 or 5 years, and talking about those expenditures, getting a visibility to expenses that are coming up. And the challenge with travel, as you know, is, a lot of times your airline, that's just a reservation. And I know it seems weird to think about buying an airline ticket right now, but remember back in 2019 when you actually did buy an airline ticket and it was just a reservation, same with a hotel. But you do as an organization want to see and you want to have visibility into that spend. So what's the idea? How do we manage that? Well, we're really excited because we are introducing a card that's actually been launched, which is pretty exciting. And it's because of what you'll see coming up. Actually, next slide, please. Next slide. So as we know, in the past, we'd put it as a company, we'd put in policies in place and we'd talk about, what it actually, why are we want to save money? Why do we want to put limits on reimbursements for cell phones? Why do we want to put limits on food and marketing materials or trade show materials, whatever it may be? Obviously, as you can see here, it's kind of, if we keep our spending down, then our profits go up. And that's true, but it's hard to do after the fact. And it's hard to do it in real time. So next slide, please. And so then we put our HR manuals out and we'd have a policy in place. If we follow these rules, then we sure will be able to manage our costs and save a bunch of money. And that's, that's all great in theory, but as you can see here, who has their manual? Who knows what that is? So you need a T&E solution. You need policies that are going to be a little more intuitive for the actual people that are out in the field traveling or spending, whether it's at home office expenses, whatever it may be. You don't want to have to go by and look at what the policy is. You actually want it in real time. Next slide, please. So what we've done is we've always said, okay, we need to, when Nexonia was being designed and when our other expense platforms were being designed, we want to make it not only user friendly, because obviously that's important. If you roll out a solution to your employees and they're not happy with it, well, then they're not going to use it. They're going to go back to their spreadsheet. They're going to go back to what other system they have. So we need to make it intuitive, easy to use. Obviously, mobile is key to doing that. But then it's got to be intuitive. It's got to be easy to navigate. It has to be easy to train. Most of our clients and our end users don't even really need to sit through a training class because the app is so useful. And it's kind of like in your real world, all the apps that you've probably downloaded on your phone, very few of them do you have to sit and watch and watch a training video on how to use them. They're very intuitive. Yes, you try this button and then you see where it goes. But the concept of, okay, adding a receipt, having it syncing with a credit card feed, uploading, all the different methods of getting receipts into the system. And it's very easy, it's very intuitive. But the biggest thing is when you're putting an expense in real time, being able to see if you're within policy before you even submitted that expense. That is key to driving a good behavior from the beginning. And that's what our solution provides. Nexonia is going to identify if something is out of policy. It's going to do it ahead of time. So then you can actually make adjustments if you need to. Maybe you're running through the airport and you grab a bagel and a coffee, and LaGuardia, you can't get a bagel and a coffee and have it under $10. So, maybe it's $12 and I don't want to deal with it. I'm going to make that $2 just a personal expense. And that way I'm only submitting for my 10, whatever it may be. And it's just a way and the concept of driving good behavior in the beginning. Next slide, please. So obviously, we wanted to do a lot of, technology build and really functionality based on this concept of controlling the spend before it happens. Now, what we've also done in addition to that is say, okay, we need to introduce a card to the platform because we want to actually physically be able to control that. We don't want to have to always depend on that credit card feed on a nightly basis. We want to actually control how it's actually being spent. So we can actually control based on location or MCC code, and we can put budgets on it. So we can do it by time and date. We can do it by day. And actually, if we go to the next slide, I'll give you a couple scenarios of how this works. So this is pretty exciting. So we have a card now that we can say, and you can kind of read through here, where we can say you have $15 for lunch between this set time only at these locations. So it's going to actually know and be able to control the spend. Not only does it fit the policy, but you can change where it's actually being used, which is a really nice game changer when looking at spend. Now, does it replace all corporate cards and the benefits of corporate cards? No. But does it solve a problem or solve an identified problem of how do we control that spend before it happens? Well, if you have the payment method ahead of time that actually controls it, and you can actually do a plastic card or a virtual card, which is even better. Certainly the plastic card's much better when you're dealing with a hotel or something like that, because they're a little behind the times and you still physically need to have a card there. That's been a challenge for the travel industry for so many years. I think we still have clients that are saying, oh, with your online booking tool, we want to do prepay, and do we send the fax to the hotel if it's a corporate pay? It's still crazy. But now we've solved it with the physical card, which is really exciting. As you can see here in this example, with a $15 limit based on Monday through Friday, that's really going to control where that's being spent. We see a lot of our clients using this, whether it's supplies at Staples. So they actually have it locked down where it actually can only be used at that specific location. Same with a lot of our clients using Home Depot. We do have, solutions in place for, does this solve for everything? Well, no, maybe sometimes you need to do a cash advance, but boy, it sure does solve a lot of problems. Next slide, please. So here's another scenario, and here's actually a good visual. I actually, to save time, I won't go through this challenge. This is going to be a recorded webinar, so you can always come back and read this problem, but I did want to share this screenshot of what that actually looks like from a dashboard perspective of looking at the budgets and being able to have visibility to spend based on the employee. You can see where they're at for spend on their cards right here within the system. Now, this in conjunction with the expense report, analytics with Nexonia, you're going to have visibility into all spend, and this kind of gives you a nice user interface of what's available from a budgeting perspective for these folks. Really neat functionality, and again, all it's fully mobile. Obviously, with analytics, if you use a bigger screen, you get a lot more. Obviously the charts and graphs and looking in and drilling into the data is a little more useful on a bigger screen. But as you can see here, it's nice at a glance to see what you have left from a budget perspective. Next slide. Well, I did want to obviously open up for the end here. If there are any questions, I don't know if they're going to be written or if we can open it up where they can actually ask them. I'm not sure if any questions came in. I'd be glad to answer any questions. And if, sometimes in these, I know we're running out of time. Sometimes in these events, people maybe they're overloaded with information. They may not have questions. So feel free to reach out to me at any time. You can actually email me at nexonia.com or emburse.com or certify.com. It all goes to the same place. So, or obviously you can always call me. I'd be glad to help out. This phone number is a little deceiving. That's my Scottsdale phone number. I feel like my cell phone number is more important than my social security number. I never got rid of it, but I'm actually located in the Northeast right now, but I still have that number. But feel free to reach out to me anytime. Did any questions come in?
What intact dimensions does Nexonia support?
A good question. We actually can handle the vendor, customer, employee, item, department, location, class, and projects. And then,
Uh,
oh, I should also add the other one is the user-defined dimensions as well.
Another question we have is, does Nexonia support intact project module?
Yep, actually, I kind of answered that a little bit in the first question, but yes, you can actually seamlessly, you can actually see the project settings, including the manager and approval assignments. And I believe the user filtering can also be utilized as well.
The next question I have is, can Nexonia handle multi-entity configuration?
Ooh, yes, we can handle multi-entity. So not only can we do multi-entity, but we actually can do it in support the taxes with worldwide tax configurations, and we can handle the currency. So we can multi-currency. So if one of the entities is another, obviously out of country, we can handle that as well.
That is all the questions that I've had come in so far. So
Okay.
I'd say, Ben, hold on. Don't leave us just yet. We will have a final Q&A session, but thank you so much for presenting, and thank you to all the attendees for bearing with us through those few little technical difficulties.